Welcome to the Why Not Today podcast, where we support entrepreneurs to take bold, clear steps to start a business, get unstuck, or grow with more clarity, confidence, and courage. I'm Leslie Kane, a courage coach and the founder of the Why Not Today movement. I created this podcast in honor of my dad, Patrick Kane, who often said, "Why not today?" And now it has become a guiding question in my life and business. Each week, you'll hear solo episodes where I coach through common business challenges and guest interviews that go beyond inspiration to teach what actually works. So, whether you're launching something new or navigating a pivot, you'll leave each episode with a clear next step and a reminder that you're not alone. Let's dive into Why Not Today, the podcast that helps you grow with courage and by taking action. And just FYI, I do not edit these episodes. I want them to be real conversations. So I'm excited to have my guest today, Danny DelVecchio. Did I say that right?
No, not quite. It's
Okay.
DelVecchio, but that's okay.
DelVecchio. Okay. So I met Danny by somebody just reaching out and pitching the podcast, and I've been getting a lot of those, but usually the subject line now says pitch. But James, who referred you, was very professional and sent me some of your stuff, and I was quite intrigued with all that you have going on and how you're growing. So I'm excited
Thank
to
you.
have everybody hear your story. So let's start with who is Danny and a fun fact, something somebody might not know about you.
Oh, okay. Here's a fun fact that everybody finds amazing. You ready?
Okay.
Never in my whole life have I ever had a cup of coffee.
Wow.
Not
That's pretty
once. I think
amazing.
one time I was probably about 14, 15 years old. I had a sip and I was like, not like, I don't like it. And I've never had a sip of coffee from then on.
Wow. I was not a coffee girl until Starbucks came into the world. Like
Mm.
I was with a friend this weekend, she was talking about it in college. I'm like, I didn't drink it, but I think what stopped me from drinking it, we had somebody that used to babysit us, an older woman, and she smoked cigarettes and drank coffee. And like I watched that, I'm like, oh, the combination. So tell us, who's Danny? What do we need to know about Danny other than your no coffee?
Yeah. Okay. So that was the fun fact. But, well, I'm a father, a husband, an entrepreneur. I left my corporate job 3 years ago to start my own business. Also moved from New York 3 years ago to Charleston, South Carolina, and lived in New York my entire life.
Oh, wow.
And moved here 3 years ago. A little bit about my kind of career background, I guess. So I started and got started in sales at a pretty early age. Started working in retail, worked my way up, got into management, then ultimately became a sales manager, sales director, sales trainer. And alongside my sales career, this is back in 2015, I wanted to do something new and exciting and creative. And that's how I got into the world of podcasting and content creation. And I started a podcast in 2015. And
Before they were popular.
yeah, not as popular as they are now, but like they were, it's, not, I wasn't like one of the really early adopters,
Hmm.
but I got into it on the early side. And I got pretty good at the whole content creation and social media thing, right? So in 2022, when I wanted to start my own business, I took all the marketing things that I learned through podcasting and content creation and applied it to starting a coaching business, which is basically what everybody does when they leave their corporate job and they want to start their own thing. They
Hmm.
become coaches.
Yeah. Well, before you dive deep into that, we're going to talk
Yeah.
about some why not today moments. And I love how you've pivoted and moved to South Carolina. That was a pretty bold move and left a job. But what does courage mean to you, Danny?
Okay. Courage. Courage means just having the discipline and the resilience to show up as often as you possibly can without feeling like people are judging you. I mean, people are going to judge you, but without fear of judgment, I would
Right.
say. And to show up as yourself and just be who you are and not try to fit into some kind of box.
So true. And I think you did you know that before you started the podcast? Or did you learn as you started the podcast and content about being more authentic? Get out of that box that people put us in.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely the podcast was the first steps into that, and just getting myself out there in the world and beyond, just my normal circle of friends and family and coworkers and things like that. And it was really interesting, that podcast. Like, I learned a lot from it, but I made a lot of like really good connections from people all over the world, which I had never done before. I was, kind of living in my little bubble. And even to this day, I have one of my best friends I met through that podcast is from Scotland,
Oh, wow.
and he came, visited New York, and we went out to dinner, and I had him to my family's Thanksgiving. He happened to come during Thanksgiving, and I was like, "You can't have Thanksgiving alone. You got to come out and and
He's
and
like, what the heck's Thanksgiving?
yeah, yeah." And it was funny too because he's lost a lot of weight, but at the time he's a professional wrestler in Scotland, and he's
Wow.
6'9", and he was like 500 pounds.
Oh
And
my
this
goodness.
guy shows up to Thanksgiving dinner, and everybody's like, "Who the heck is this guy?" So it was fun.
That's fun. Well, yeah, and I totally agree about the connections that it's the doors that have opened. I just did a post on LinkedIn today, just talking about you just got to ask. I saw somebody on CBS Sunday Morning and I asked her if she'd be on my podcast. And just like you and the friend from Scotland, we became friends and she's been here where I live um, to speak at one of my luncheons and to connect me with so many other people. So what was the why not today moment, as I call them, that got you to start a podcast? What was the thought or what motivated you to do that?
Okay, so like I said, I wanted to do something creative, but I think that if there was one thing that really made me want to do that was it was my grandfather's 80th birthday. And I asked him, when it was about a week before his birthday, we were doing a big party for him, right? And about a week before his birthday, I was having dinner with him at his place, and I was like, "Are you excited for the birthday party?" And he's like, "No." And I'm like, "Why not?" I'm like, "What?" And he's just like, it's the same old. And I'm like, "Well, what do you want? What would you want the birthday party to be?" And he's like, "I want it to be a roast." And I was like, "Gotcha, loud and clear." So at this birthday party, I got up in front of everybody and I spoke and I roasted him and the entire family, right? And I got a lot of laughs, and a lot of people were enjoying it. And that sort of gave me the itch to be like, "Hey, I really want to do something creative." And then I discovered podcasting just because I was watching a TV show, and then I found out that these two guys that I really liked from this TV show had their own podcast. And I'm like, "Oh, I can do that." And I'm like, "This is it. This is how I can do this creative thing." And I started a podcast.
That's awesome. So what is your you still have a podcast, don't you?
Yeah, but it's completely different than
Yeah, I was going to say, what did it start as and what is it now? Because
so
that is
yeah, so it
always
started
such a
as
good
like just
thing.
me and a friend, like kind of like BSing about TV and movies and stuff like that.
Okay.
And then this was like I said, 2016, 2017. So at the time, this was the time of Game of Thrones and Breaking Bad. And I started watching this TV show called Impractical Jokers, right?
Okay.
And it's kind of on like an obscure network, but it was starting to gain in popularity. And I I realized that like there's hundreds and thousands maybe of podcasts about Breaking Bad and Game of Thrones, but Impractical Jokers does not have a podcast at all. And I was like, "I'm going to start one." So I started one, and because I did that, I had so many good connections that I met like all the writers and producers from the entire show.
Oh, wow.
I went up to the writers room and recorded a podcast episode with them. I had one of the stars of the show, James Murray, like he was on the podcast. I had the executive producer, a bunch of comedians that they were all like, part of their network and everything. So I ended up like, the guys in the show, like they knew who I was. I would go out to their events, like when they did live stuff in New York City, I would go out and, hang out and just say hello. And they knew exactly who I was. And they were very appreciative of the fact that I was giving them all this kind of publicity without asking for anything in return. So,
Right.
yeah, it was fun. It was cool.
That is really cool. So what's your podcast now?
So now my podcast is called Free Business School. And
Okay.
basically, what I do is I interview experts. I interview experts for a living. Um, my business now is essentially, helping experts create video content for LinkedIn, social media, as well as all types of content, but really kind of using video as the foundation. And I realized that I'm doing this all the time, and I'm doing this every day. So I might as well take what I'm already doing with my clients and getting all this like kind of cool information, and I turn it into a podcast.
That's awesome. And I love the journey. And so you were working corporate. What was the why not today moment of decision to go out on your own and leave? And you simultaneously quit your job and moved to South Carolina, right?
Yeah, same week,
Wow.
quit my job, moved to South Carolina. So yes, well, I had this really good job, and it was, I was a sales director at my company. I was running a 60-person sales team. I covered from New England all the way down to Florida. The whole East Coast team was part of my organization, and the company got acquired. And when the company got acquired, I found myself kind of going back to square one and trying to figure out what was happening. And I went and worked with some of the other guys from the company that started a new company. That whole thing didn't really work out. And I found myself job searching at a really tough time. And I actually landed a job in March of 2020 of all time frames.
Yeah.
But because of the timing of it, I had to take a big step back. So I went from sales director to individual contributor again, right? So I was just, I wasn't an entry level salesperson, but pretty close to it.
Right.
And I struggled because it was a brand new industry that I needed to learn, and I was, trying to also figure out how to make sales in a very interesting environment in the middle of this pandemic. And I ultimately started to make a name for myself within my company because I started posting videos on LinkedIn.
Okay.
um, and people in the company were like, oh, that's interesting that he's doing that. And then they were like, oh, you should go and show all the sellers in the whole company what you're doing. So here I am, this brand new sales guy, like with this company for like 2 or 3 months, and doing a presentation for 400 salespeople on, how to use video on LinkedIn. And sure enough,
And probably not getting paid for that
no, I was not getting paid,
and
but
taking time from your sales job.
but I was getting some attention. I was building a brand inside of the company. So I was trying to leverage that into a promotion, whether that was into management or whether that was into like the behind the scenes sales operations, kind of sales enablement division. And I started interviewing for a bunch of positions. And I interviewed for a bunch of roles. And I think it was like 7 positions that I made it to final interviews for and got none of them.
Oh, wow.
And when I didn't get the last one, which was the one that I wanted most, it was a sales enablement job. It would have been a lot of fun. It was helping people build content and coming up with new ideas on like, on how to support the sales team and all that. Would have been a fun job. But when I didn't get that one, I was like, this is it. This is my sign. Like
Your
I'm gonna
why not today
go.
moment, as I call it.
I'm gonna go all in on my own coaching business and my own thing. And I took the money from the house. I lent it to myself so that I can give myself some time to build up enough revenue. And I barely made it.
We don't talk about those things as often, like the bad times. And, this podcast is in honor of my dad, and he owned his own company my whole life. and didn't realize till after the fact. Yeah, there was, I knew there were some lean months here and there, but my mom's
Yeah.
like, it always happened. We didn't get paid or something fell through the cracks or it wasn't going smoothly right around your birthday.
Uh,
But I never noticed,
yeah.
but yeah, we do have those moments.
Oh yeah, it was brutal. I mean, I started, again, we moved to South
So
Carolina.
what brought you to South Carolina? Did you know people there or
No, we knew
family?
nobody. We knew no,
So,
we knew nobody.
so
We
how
knew
did
we
you
wanted
get
to
to,
move. We knew that we wanted to move out of New York.
okay.
And we
Were you
wanted
in
to,
the city?
no, I was in Long Island, but like
Okay.
not far from
Close
the
enough.
city.
Yeah.
But so I knew we wanted to move south and we wanted to go someplace warmer. We also knew that Florida was blowing up and the prices were just going insane in Florida. And I really liked Charlotte, and I was actually supposed to move to Charlotte before my company had got acquired. Because like I said, I covered that whole East Coast
Right.
team and Charlotte was like right smack in the middle. So when when I got to, so when we were making the decision to move again, we're like, let's go to Charlotte, check it out. And my wife was like, hey, is there any place like that's closer to the beach? And I was like, well, there's Charleston. And she was like, well, let's go look at Charleston too. My wife, who's an interior designer and has like a very good appreciation for historic homes and historic architecture, took one look at Charleston and was like, yeah, we're moving here. um, and we've been in Charleston for the last 3 years now.
That's awesome. It's a
Yeah.
great area too.
Oh, it's beautiful. It's the weather's good. We got a couple rough months in July and August, but the rest of the year makes up for it because it doesn't
Yeah.
get too cold. Even January, February, December, it's pretty mild here. So we do get a little bit of change of season, but we don't get the snow and ice and
Yeah.
all that kind of stuff. So yeah, it's nice. We get some weird bugs here though. Then that's one thing that I'm getting used to is the bugs.
Yeah. Definitely different things in different places. So you left, you started a coaching business. What were you coaching? And then
Yes.
how has that pivoted and changed and where are you today?
Yeah. So I started coaching basically on the two things that I was good at, sales and social media, right? And I
Okay.
really learned social media. And this is kind of what I was getting to in the opening there is like the podcast really taught me a lot about social media, right?
Do you
So
have a favorite social media you like to play in?
I used to like Instagram the most, but now I like LinkedIn the most.
Okay.
Well, LinkedIn gives me the most return on my investment, that's for sure.
Okay.
Um, and that's where the majority of my content goes these days. And then YouTube second. My
Okay.
podcast and all my short form videos or whatever are all on YouTube channel. Um, so yeah, so what was I saying? I got distracted. I lost track.
Sorry.
Yes.
Coaching, what you
So
know.
yes, so I started coaching people on the two things that I was good at, social media and sales, right? And I was basically working with business owners and solopreneurs and real estate agents and helping them with like how to build a persona online and use that to drive people to your business, right? And what ultimately kept happening with my coaching clients was I kept telling them, you really need to start making videos because this is what's going to set you apart. This is what's going to differentiate you from all the other people out there. And they were like, yes, Danny, I completely agree with you. However, video is really hard. And it's hard for people for a number of reasons. Number one, people don't like to be on camera. That's a lot. Many people don't. Most people don't.
No.
Number two is people like I'm running a business. I don't have
Right.
time to be like messing around and trying to learn how to become a professional video editor and doing 500 takes and all this stuff, right? And then number three is I don't really know what to do, right? Like, where do I post my videos? Do I post them on Instagram or TikTok or Facebook or LinkedIn? Or how long do my videos need to be? Do I need to hold my phone this way or this way? Do I need to, have, captions, and how do I get captions, right? So there's just so much that goes into it
So much to learn. It makes it
that
makes my head spin.
exactly. And like, people feel overwhelmed by it. So they just don't do it. Right.
Right.
that's kind of what I learned about video. So I was like, how do I come up with a solution that solves all of these problems for my clients, delivers them high quality video content, does it in a really short period of time, and does it in a place where they just feel comfortable to talk about what they're building with their business, talk about how they're helping their clients, and just like I said, just be themselves and make it really conversational and not have to like, be, this persona on camera, right? And that's where my program Video on Easy Mode started. And I started doing that for clients and, coaching clients. And then that kind of caught on a little bit. And then when I started posting content on LinkedIn, after I quit my job, I started posting on LinkedIn because before I didn't feel like I could post on LinkedIn. I had my boss and his boss and their boss and all
Right.
my peers and everything. So I couldn't talk about my business on LinkedIn. But as soon as I quit, I could, right? And once I started talking about my business on LinkedIn, I noticed that there was a big market for people doing video content on LinkedIn that they didn't know how to do it the way that they knew how to do it on Instagram and TikTok and some of these other platforms that were very like video focused. And I started offering my video service to people on LinkedIn. And 2 years ago, it really took off.
That's awesome. I love that. So, and now you're evolving to something else. But before we go to that, what is one thing you wish you would have known before you started?
Oh God, one of the million things that I wish I would have known before I
Yeah.
started. uh, I wish I would have known how much patience and like resilience and discipline that it was actually going to take to be an entrepreneur. Everybody wants fast results because we live in a world where everybody gets fast results.
Right.
We go on Netflix and we can watch whatever the heck we want on TV, or we go on, we order Uber Eats and any food that you can imagine
Right.
shows up at your house in 20 minutes or whatever, right? So people are used to getting such fast results. And that's just not realistic in terms
No.
of like building a business. Now, again, I'm sure there's always exceptions to every rule. Some people, they make the right moves, they get lucky, whatever. But almost every single person that, is an entrepreneur has this story of like, they lost everything or they hit rock bottom or like they had no money in their pocket or whatever, right? And I just would have wished I would have known how much work and how many ups and downs that I was going to have to go through before I found the thing that really
Right.
worked for me.
And that's really kind of the gist of this podcast now is bringing light to that. Like, let's talk about the messy middle. And
Yeah,
yes, entrepreneurship is amazing and the flexibility, and there's so many good things, but it's not all, unicorns and rainbows. There's
totally.
some stuff, and it does take resilience. And I think that's why entrepreneurship is not for everybody. And good thing we don't know all these things. Yes, it would have been nice to know it, but would you have jumped if you knew it was going to take longer than you thought?
Uh, Probably wouldn't have quit my job, made that jump. I probably would have stayed side hustling, which would have held me back.
Right. Which exactly will absolutely hold you back. Somebody said you can't chase two rabbits and catch either one.
That's
At some
that's
point
a
you
great
need to
quote.
let go. And, I did the same thing. Gosh, it was 26 years ago this week, I think, that made that leap. And I had not replaced an income.
It's
And
amazing.
and I was like, but I just knew there was a better world. And I knew that if I didn't, I would be stuck in this negative place, which is still, by the way, the company I work for is still negative and still the same crap going on that was going on 26 years ago. But,
Uh,
and I found too that once I quit, and you probably found this too, once you made that commitment, that not that things fell in your lap, but things fell in your lap. Things started happening when you made that commitment.
yeah, totally. I wouldn't say it wasn't for a while.
Right. Okay.
um, that first, year almost. was actually really brutal. And I came pretty close to saying like, I don't know how much longer I could do this for. I'm going to have to get a job. Like I'm really going to have to do that. Um, and then after a lot of praying and a lot of hard work and a lot of, behind the scenes free work that I was doing for people, that's where things started to pay off. And I actually caught a break because I did some free work for somebody, and she just happened to have a really large size audience, and she really liked the work that we did together. She shared it with her audience, and I signed 7 clients that day.
Wow.
And I haven't looked back since. That was the
That's
turning
awesome.
point.
Yeah. Well, and somebody said to me years ago that things don't fall in your lap unless your lap's out there.
I was
You know,
out there, that's for sure.
if you were sitting under your desk sucking your thumb saying this sucks and nobody's buying anything and just like I should get a job and just down on life, but you were hustling and it does take hustling. You got to keep asking and you never know who that person's going to be if you don't keep asking.
Hmm.
So what's one thing, and this is probably the same answer, what's one thing that you so glad you didn't know or you never would have started?
One thing that I'm glad that I didn't know. Um, yeah, I mean, I guess I'm gonna go back. That I
Same
didn't
thing.
know like how hard it was really going
Right.
to be.
That's what most people come to. It's kind of like our strengths and our kryptonite are the same thing.
Yeah, it's funny. I'm like, I didn't know how hard this was really going to be. I
Hmm.
also didn't know how much fun it was going to be though either, because
Yeah.
this is so much more fun. I just got off like a call. Like I'm working on building this app slash SaaS product right now, and I just got off the call with the guy that I'm working on it with, and like I haven't had so much fun in a long time. It's
And you
great.
get to use your creativity and create what you want and not have
Exactly.
this amazing idea that you have to make it look like your boss's idea, the games that we played in
Yeah.
corporate
Yeah.
America. And yeah, you get to be creative. And what it's doing, you just have one son?
I have
One daughter?
two,
Two. Okay.
two boys.
They're watching you, and that is invaluable. You go to an office and they have no idea what daddy does, but they're watching you and they're watching the excitement and what you're teaching them. They say much more is caught than is ever taught.
It's funny that you bring that up today of all days, because yesterday I gave them my old iPhone so that they can make videos, because they just want to make videos because
Right.
they know that daddy likes to make videos.
Yeah,
And they're just like, so the two of them, they're making Batman videos. Like I got my son doing like he's doing this Star Wars podcast. It's like
that's
they
awesome.
definitely enjoy it.
That's great.
Yeah.
So let's give the audience, and I'm going to be totally selfish, me. What's tips to get some notice? Because I play more on Facebook.
Okay.
That's kind of where I've been. I barely dabble in Instagram, and I had somebody give me an audit of my Instagram, the other account, two people, and then they were like, "Oh, you could do so much," telling me what I could do with YouTube. My website needs help, all the things people are trying to sell me how to fix all these things.
Of
But
course.
and for me personally, and a lot of probably people in my audience that are business owners, I think LinkedIn is a good place to be.
Sure.
So since that's your expertise, give me some tips and ideas for me and whoever else is listening on how to leverage LinkedIn.
Yeah. So LinkedIn has been a um, really an amazing platform for me. I was doing okay on Instagram, getting coaching clients or whatever, but it was definitely hard. LinkedIn is much easier to target in on the exact people that you want to speak to, right? Sometimes those people are a little bit harder to find on Instagram. Unless you're more of like a local business and you're trying to work with other local businesses, then Facebook and Instagram have an advantage. I think Facebook has a nice advantage because of Facebook groups,
Yeah.
where you can go to groups where people, where your target audience lives. But LinkedIn, it's like, hey, I want to work with real estate agents, in New York City, or I want to work with SaaS companies in Cleveland, Ohio, like, and I want to work with executives, like I can find those people very easily
Right. And how
through
do
a
you find out
search.
how to do that?
Yeah. So basically, I mean, there's some really
Like, I have no
easy.
idea what you just said.
There are really easy search filters that you can do to find people by title and by location, and a lot of people like, oh, you need to have LinkedIn Sales Navigator. No, there's a lot of, with the free version of LinkedIn, there is a lot of tools that you can use to search and find people, like, good people, in your network or whatever, or like, the type of clients that you want to really connect with, right?
And how do you avoid the person that drives me crazy that you connect with them on LinkedIn or Facebook, and then then automatically there's a post them trying to sell you something. Like
Yeah, there's a little bit of
this
that that's
doesn't work, or
um,
that needs to be fixed, or I can sell you this.
yeah, I mean, there's a little bit of that. Like some of it's unavoidable. Like you're gonna
Right.
you're gonna run across like the people that, just connect and then pitch you immediately, right? That
Right.
that's going to happen. For me, I just say no, thank you, and move on. I don't. It doesn't bother me that a million people are trying to sell
Yeah.
me
So how
their
do you, I
thing.
don't want to be that person.
Yeah, exactly. So the idea is you want to reach out to people that are in, again, like potential clients. You want to start reaching out and connecting with them, but like warming up a little bit before you get into like, let's, like, here's my thing and here's how it
Right.
works. Right. Right. So one of the things that I like to do is, first off, I like to create content. So people are going to come in and see my content. Right. And one of the nice things about having LinkedIn Premium is it shows you who's viewed your profile. Right.
Okay.
So if people have viewed my profile and I have not yet connected with them, I will reach out to them and I will say, hey, I noticed that you stopped by my profile. Was there anything in particular that caught your eye? And then this way I can go and have that, like, and then they could tell me, yes, I was thinking about this or whatever it was. And
Right.
all I want to do, and this is all you want to do on any social media platform, is you want to start conversations.
Right.
That's it. The more hands you
Just like you
shake, the
were at
more
the
money you
grocery
make,
store.
right?
Yep.
Like that's it. That's how it works. So, the whole idea is like, I just look for little triggers within the platform that help me to start a conversation. So that could be that somebody wrote a comment on my post, they said a specific thing that maybe they needed help with XYZ. And then what I love is I have all this library of content that I've been creating all over the years. And I'm just like, hey, I noticed that you said that you were looking for XYZ. This video might be really helpful for
Oh,
you.
that's a great idea.
And then I shoot them like one of my pieces of video content, and then they watch, and then they're like, oh, okay, cool. And then that might take them down a rabbit hole to go and look at more of my video
Right.
content. And as they look at more of my video content, then they feel like they get to know me a little bit. And then at some point, they're going to see my content and they're going to be like, you know what he's talking about right there? That's exactly like the way I'm feeling, or that's exactly what I need. And that's when I pounce on them, right? And I say, hey, like, or that's when they raise their hand. They raise their hand
Right.
and they tell
Yeah,
me.
they
They,
do.
they, they will literally identify themselves and they'll come and reach out and schedule an appointment. Um, so, it's about kind of knowing the signs and looking for the signs, and then also like taking advantage and starting conversations and building relationships with people. And like I don't mean that you need to sit on the platform and comment for like 3 hours a day and all that stuff. Like, no, it's just like take some time to like really, kind of dive into the people that are worth your time.
Right. Totally agree. And it's just like you connect with people, you have conversations, you be real,
Yeah,
and
and look, it's
not
okay to share stuff that you're doing too. You know
right.
what I mean? Like I have, I'll send people, as a welcome. I'll be like, hey, I appreciate your connection and everything. And as a welcome, I put together this tool. And if you'd like to check it out, here, it's yours for free. No, I don't even
Yeah.
ask for an email address. It's just like
Right.
you can have
Here.
this thing, right?
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah. Connection, sharing stuff. And just like you said, you helped that woman for free and that opened up the door.
Yeah, and help could be, just a quick piece of advice. I mean, there's been many people where I notice that they just start getting into video content. That's something that I look for,
Right.
right? Because I know that's a foundational piece of the service that I offer, right? So when somebody starts putting out video content and I notice something that they're doing wrong, like a small thing, I will reach out to them and I'll be like, "Hey, I noticed that you've been posting a bunch of videos lately. Can I give you a small piece of fearless feedback?"
Love that.
And almost always they will come back and say, "Yeah, sure, no problem, of course." And I'll be like, "Your intro, you got to change your intro," right? Um, when you address people, you want to address one single person as opposed to addressing multiple people at once. Because when you address one person, it feels like you're speaking directly to them, and the person that's
Right.
on the other side of it, they feel that. As opposed to like when you say, "Hey, LinkedIn, what's up?" Right? And that's like a
Right.
typical mistake that people make, right? So I just kind of chose that one. But yeah, I mean that's the kind of thing that you can do to start building some additional rapport, and also so that people just know that you're a real person. Because one of the most frustrating things of LinkedIn right now is that's really been taken over by like a lot of bots and
Yeah.
AI, people, or just people using AI to do all of their, commenting and outreach and content and
Right.
everything.
Yeah. We got to still be real. So,
Yeah,
well,
that's why I'm very bullish on video, because I think that in a world where there's just so much AI generated content, that video is what really sets you apart. And I also think that the best way to use AI is to use your videos as the foundation.
yeah. And I've been doing a
So
little more of that.
yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, I mean, think about it. How many podcast episodes do you have right now?
160, 170.
160 podcast episodes. If you take that transcript of these podcast episodes of every 160 episodes and you upload one episode into an AI tool or whatever, it's going to say, "Here's a bunch of really good content ideas for you." And then you take the transcript from that little piece of content that you put together and you plug it into this system and say, "Hey, can you generate me a piece of content based upon this?" And what's going to happen is you're inputting your language, you're
Yeah.
inputting your insights, your thoughts. It's not giving you some generic thing that like anybody can get out of ChatGPT, right? Like it's giving you like it's recognizing you. And that is the difference. And that's how people can use AI to really leverage themselves and streamline their workflows and everything and make things go faster, because like it is a great tool if you use it right. But the
Right.
problem is like most people are using it as, like we talked about before, as a shortcut,
Right.
as a way to try to get on demand results.
Hmm. Yeah. And whoever's listening to this, we're recording this in the fall of 2025. So if you're 2027 watching this, listening to it, you're going, what are they talking about? This is already happening.
Ah,
Things are happening so fast that I almost have to timestamp these because you just never
totally.
know. Yeah. So, and I know you got a new product coming out, and I can't wait for it to come out, your app, and test it. Uh,
Yeah.
so we'll have to have another episode when it's live and share about that.
Yeah, totally. It's like I said, we've been building this app. This is something that I never thought I would be doing. um,
Be careful saying what we need,
yep, and
never say never.
it's like, and then I'm like, "Oh, it's an app." And then like, no, it's like a full-on SaaS product. Which is like even
What is a
cooler.
SaaS product? You keep saying that
It's
word.
a software as a service.
Okay,
So
gotcha.
it's like a monthly subscription to a software or whatever. And and what I just described is exactly what we're creating for people,
Well,
which
I can't.
is how to take your everyday conversations, the conversations that you're having with your clients, the conversations that you're having on a podcast, if you're running a workshop or you're on a sales call, like we have all these luxuries now to record everything that we're doing, right? So when we take those recordings, that's the idea, is to take this recording and that is your foundational content.
Right.
And let's take this foundational content and let's turn it into written posts. Let's turn it into email newsletters. Let's turn it into tweets and for Substack or for Twitter and Threads and all these things. And this is what we are building, and we're really excited that we're going to get it out there soon because
Well, I'm first in line, so
yeah, we're
let
going to
me
get the
know.
first iteration out there, and then we're just going to keep building it better and better and better because we've got the long-term vision for it right now, but we also want to get it out there so that people could start taking advantage of it right
I
now.
was gonna say that's probably the biggest thing holding me back is I've got so much content, and but it's just okay, where does it go and how do I do it? And spending time, and I need to get help. So I know we talked
Yeah,
about this the other
definitely
day
makes
too.
sense.
So, well, any last parting words that you want to share? I know we can find you on LinkedIn. Of course, I'm going to share all your information in the show notes. But
I mean, yeah, the best place to find me is on LinkedIn. By the time this launches, the content on Easy Mode may be out already, so you can probably go to contentoneasymode.com and check us out there. But no, just like I said, let's go back to how I defined courage, which was to show up every day relentlessly as yourself and lean into who you are and have faith, and good things will come your way.
so true. And as I said, we don't edit these, and I realized 10 minutes in that I didn't even plug my microphone in today. So, you know what? I'm not perfect. It won't be perfect, but it is what it is, and that's what I love about it.
Well, look, it's good that the computers have good audio because I
They
didn't even
do.
know I didn't even notice. Like it sounds good to
Yeah.
me. So
Yeah.
you're
And the
all good.
dog barked in between, but all those good things. But that's okay.
Yeah, but
I'm who I am,
I
and that's
like
authentic.
that. I like, it's like it just makes it feel more real that way.
Exactly. So, well, thank you for sharing everything. And I'm excited for the new products coming out, and whatever I can do to cheer you on and support you, for sure, let me know. And thank you for everybody for joining us on the Why Not Today podcast, your space for personal tools, real encouragement, and courageous growth. So, whether you're launching something new or navigating a pivot, I hope you're leaving today's episode with a clear next step and a reminder that you're not alone. This podcast is your bridge from inspiration to action, and I'm here to walk with you every step of the way. So let's make courage contagious. And remember, you don't need to have it all figured out. You just need to take the next brave step. Thanks, Danny. Thanks, everybody. And why not today?